allow that awareness to anchor itself in your breath. As it flows in and out gently. We are simply aware, not changing, not judging, just drawing that awareness. And if the mind wanders, don't worry, just bring it back lovingly and gently. Like you would bring back a small child who started wandering off to look at a caterpillar on the ground. Just take its hand and bring him back. Just bring the awareness back gently. Whenever it wanders off, just bring it back. And allow yourself to just rest in that place of spacious, gentle and loving awareness within yourself. Nothing to change, nothing to do. Just be aware. Slowly and gently, bring the palms of your hands together at chest level in Namaste, and gently rub them against each other. Press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. Slowly and gently lower the hands and open the eyes. Welcome to Satsang.
You got holied already. People start early. Such a
joy to be together with you all in what will be our final satsang until after International Yoga Festival, because for the next week, starting tomorrow, we'll be in morning till evening programs, and this very, very short time after Aarti will be the only time that people have to eat dinner before the evening program. So
We'll regather in Satsang on the 15th, but I do hope that all or most of you will join us for Yoga Festival, either for all of it if you're here for a week, or for however many days you may be here. How can we maximize the time that we have every day? So we'll start with that, and then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here has. So if anyone has yet figured out a trick to get more than 24 hours in a day, they should share it with everybody. You can't maximize the time in terms of increasing it. We all get exactly the same amount. Doesn't matter who you are, rich or poor, pious, irreverent, successful, unsuccessful, old, young. Doesn't matter. It's the great leveler. We all get exactly the same amount of time every day. The question for us is, how do we utilize that time in such a way that at the end of the day, and at the end of our lives, on the one hand, we feel like, oh God, is it over already? Wow, I would have loved to smell another flower, climb another tree, help another person, hug another person, do the arti just one more time, hear beautiful music just one more time, see the stars one more time. Parado avaspia. Sandipya, vas parado. Bahut kam ho gaya. That at the end of that day or that life, yeah, we want more because we loved every minute. And that we know that we've made full and perfect use of those minutes, of those days. So there's not a sense of regret. And that's what we're striving for, is how do we spend those minutes and days so that it's full of joy, full of love, and full of a sense that, yeah, even though I'd love some more, I'm good. And the way to do that is, first of all, not to lose any minutes. Meaning, we lose time when we go on autopilot. How many of us have had situations where you're like, where did today go? Right? You know, you're ready to go to sleep and you think the last thing I consciously remember was waking up this morning. I had a day. I know that I did a lot. I was busy all day long. And yet, where'd it go? I don't even remember it. Because we weren't really there. We might be able to go back and reconstruct it. Oh yeah, I met that person. But we weren't consciously there. Our mind was elsewhere. Our conscious mind was elsewhere. And so in that moment, we were running on autopilot. And when you're running on autopilot, when your subconscious is running the show, then two equally tragic things happen. First of all, you tend to do and say things that you later kind of regret. Because those are the things that are in the pattern of behavior that most of us are trying to work to shift. Unconscious patterns of behavior. We speak in certain ways, we act in certain ways, that we later say, who was that? I don't know where I was. I don't know where my mind was. I wasn't there. So number one, we actually make unskillful choices in the moment because we're not actually present. And number two, we're not able to use those moments, use those minutes for our highest goal. Because in order to actually attain, whether we say self-realization or God-realization or liberation or moksha or nirvana or even bliss, samadhi, shanti, whatever we are going for, well, every one of them requires one thing: consciousness. I must be present in that moment. You don't later look back and say, oh yeah, I guess that was kind of a God-realized moment, but I didn't really notice it. I wasn't there. It only happens when you are there. You can only realize God and self when you realize the moment. If your power of awareness is not there, how can you be aware of the truth? Aware of God, aware of the self. So, the only way to maximize the possibility, the potential of every moment is to be aware. Don't lose time. Don't have situations where like, where did today go? Where did the last year go? So busy, but it seemed like it slipped through my fingers. A lot of times people ask, when people come and then they're going back and they say, how do we hold this with us when we go back? And what I always tell people is the only way is to be fully aware when you are here so that you can actually have a deep and transformative experience. Because when you're aware and present, then you can be transformed. And then that transformation stays with you because you have been changed. But if you're not here, even if your body is, you're not going to be transformed, which means your body will be here, you'll eat good food, you'll do things, you'll have fun, you'll go back, and you won't be able to grasp it because you weren't actually here. So whether it's here in Rishikesh or here on planet Earth, bring your consciousness to every moment. Every moment, here I am. Here I am. And what that does is it enables us to be present so we don't lose time. But it also enables us to interact with that moment in the way with the most love, the most openness, the most availability, such that as we look back on the day in our lives, we're like, wow, I was so available to so much love. I was so available to so much beauty. You know, I've got this beautiful blessing of being able to be in Pujya Swamiji's presence in so many places of the world, and to be able to have traveled with him for more than 25 years now. And there's a piece of it, I mean, so much of it continues to amaze me, but one piece of it is really, really very special, which is wherever he is, no matter what else is going on, he's noticing beauty. We may be driving around in circles because the people who are driving us to the function are late and they're lost and they don't know where to go, and there's stress in the car because we were supposed to be there, and you know the way people get when they're stressed, and you said you knew the way, and why didn't you get directions, and we should have left earlier, and you know, the way that things manifest sometimes. And in the midst of all of it, he'll say, do you know what kind of tree that is? Or, oh, we have those flowers. Or, oh, I remember I saw those flowers once in New Zealand. Yeah, they're called, and he'll recall the name or ask the name. Or he'll say, next time when you come to Rishikesh, can you bring a cutting of those? We should have those in our garden. And it's like, even though everyone else in the car is in some story around what's wrong with the moment, where we're supposed to be other than where we are, some drama, some game in the head, he's right there in the moment. Which flowers are we passing? Which trees? And it's such a beautiful reminder all the time. I've been in so many airports with him where we are late, because we're almost always late, because he milks every moment for what it's worth. And why waste it sitting in an airport if you can give someone who's been waiting for time and they didn't have time and you've got 5 minutes? Why leave 5 minutes early if you can give time to someone who's going to be touched and healed and helped? And so inevitably we always leave at the very last minute. And in airports, almost inevitably it's a moment of final call, final call. And yet in the midst of final call, again he'll say things like, that's really nice the way they've done this landscaping with the waterfall here. Did you notice that? And I'm like, you know, in 30 seconds they're closing our gate and we are a good, half a mile away from it. I'm sure it's a beautiful waterfall, but like, let's move. And he's right there with the waterfall, with the flowers, with, wow, somebody's done a new landscaping here. Or did I notice the way that they've changed the roofing since we were here last time to allow more sunlight in? He'll say, God, last time we walked through this airport, it was much darker. Don't you remember? Now there's so much light coming through. I think, wow. All I see in the airport is how many more gates till we get to where we're going so that the gate doesn't close before we get there. And even though, we are right on the verge of the gate closing and missing the flight, where is his presence? With the extra rays of light that are streaming through the ceiling. And he's so present that he actually remembers what it was like last time, because he was so present then. And that's still in his awareness, and he's able to... So it actually is doable. even in what we call, mundane existence. People sometimes say, well, you live this world and we live this other world, and that may be possible in your world, but it's not possible in our world. And what I've seen is it's possible in every world. Because being present and being conscious doesn't mean you never miss a flight. It doesn't mean you're never late for a program. It doesn't mean that things don't happen in life. It doesn't mean you never get sick. It doesn't mean people you love never die. It doesn't mean the stock market never crashes. It doesn't mean there's never an earthquake or a fire, or it doesn't mean that things don't happen. It just means that you are there for every moment of your own happening. And you don't lose that. So many of us have this idea that somehow being busy is the excuse to not be present. And if you're one of those people, I would give a really, really, really hard look at what excuses you're giving yourself. Because what are you losing? And what are you gaining? And in that busyness, what are you gaining? And I'm not saying don't be busy, be busy. It means continually be engaged in action, in karma. But awareness doesn't leave you just because you are grocery shopping, driving a car, preparing a report, sweeping the floor, dropping your kids off at soccer practice, balancing a checkbook, giving a lecture. There's nothing that awareness cannot be present with, other than the mind going, oh my God, I'm so busy, oh my God, I'm so busy, oh my God, I'm so busy, oh my God, I'm so busy. That's what blocks awareness. So it doesn't mean don't be engaged. It means don't let your mind tell you stories about what you're doing. Don't create a drama that hijacks your mind about what you're doing that prevents you from being aware while you're doing it. And that's the key. So just constantly keep asking yourself, am I here? Am I here? Am I here? And that's that's the greatest way I know. To maximize your experience of, your presence of the 24 hours we can. Other questions? Yes, okay.
Thank you. So my question is, how should we do when our dreams, our goals, our purposes are in contrast with our duty? Maybe in contrast is not the right word, but not in the same path. I mean, for example, I'm discovering that I love traveling, I love discovering new cultures, living in another country, growing in a spiritual way. But at the same time, I feel guilty because if I follow this path that makes me feel happy, I can't satisfy my duty, stay with my family, first of all, because my parents are not in a healthy situation. I'm an only child. So how can we balance between these two?
Beautiful. It is a balance. It's a yes and situation. I think of it really as a dance. You know, when you dance, sometimes you move in this direction, and then sometimes you move in that direction, and then sometimes you move in this direction. Sometimes you move in that direction. And when you're in a flow of movement, really in tune with the music, nobody ever only dances in this way. Right? When you really allow the flow of the music to flow through you, it's here, and 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 especially if you dance with a partner or with a group, right? Anytime you dance with a partner, there's always the constant changing of the positions. And especially if you're dancing in a group, right? In a circle, or we're constantly moving, right? I mean, there's so many cultures with dances that we do in circles, and you're moving. Now I'm here. Now I'm here. Now I'm here. And I think about the way of balancing what you could call passion and duty, like a dance. There will be moments in your life, and for those who may not have heard, she's talking about balancing this love, this passion that she has found about traveling and being with other cultures, with duty for her parents who are not in fantastic health, and she's an only child, and how to... So there will be times in which they are okay. Times in which you are able to set up a system, a situation in which they are okay. And you go. And then there will be times in which your presence is critically required. And you come back. And then there will be a time in which they are okay. Or there is a situation you are able to create that makes them okay. And you go. And it's a dance. And what's important is to be able to actually respond to what is needed, not to respond to the stories that we tell ourselves in our own minds. Because a lot of us have not only the response to duty of actually the duty and the dharma, but the drama in the mind that says, you are bad, you are wrong, you should be doing this, why aren't you doing that? And we've got this sense of a perfect, matchless son, daughter, husband, wife, mother, father, sister, brother, that we can never quite live up to. I'll tell you a personal story about that. Two-part story, actually. About the drama in the brain, in the mind, and then the dance. So, in 2018, the day just before our International Yoga Festival started, my mom had a very bad stroke, cerebral hemorrhage. I got a call on the morning of March 1st from my dad. I am also an only child. That mom had this stroke She was in the hospital. They were going to do surgery on her the following day, March 2nd morning. For some medical reason, they wanted to give it 24 hours, and then they were going to operate. So I immediately, of course, duty calls. Yoga festival will take care of itself. Duty calls. I immediately find out flights and everything from the travel agent, and it turns out there is absolutely no way, even if I left Rishikesh in exactly that moment, that I could reach LA before my mom's operation. It was physically impossible. At which point my dad and my mom, because she was conscious and fine, I mean, she'd had the stroke, but she was conscious and fine, they decided it made a lot more sense in that case, rather than me rushing to be there after she already had the operation, to wait and watch and see after the operation, how was she? What was the situation? And then we would decide when was right for me to come. March 2nd that year was Holi. We were celebrating Holi. In those days, the yoga festival used to be the 1st to the 7th. So we were celebrating Holi, and we were dancing. The drummer, Shivamani, who's coming back this year, was there and dancing, and I'm in this state of ecstasy. And suddenly I had this heart-stopping moment of panic, of, oh my God. And I've always been very self-introspective. And I stopped and I was like, what is this about? Like, what's going on? And immediately my mom said, well, my mind said, well, your mom's in the hospital having brain surgery. Of course you're worried. Of course you're concerned. That's normal and natural. But I wouldn't let myself off the hook quite so easily. And as I said, I'm very introspective. My goal is always deeper, deeper. Like, is there a deeper truth? Is there a deeper truth? And I kept going because I thought, that didn't feel right. As much as I love and adore her, that wasn't the fear. I knew whatever's meant to happen is going to happen. There's nothing I can do either way. And I realized, when I went really deep, that the paralyzing fear was not of, oh my God, losing my mom. The paralyzing fear was bad daughter, bad daughter, bad daughter, bad daughter. How dare you be dancing in ecstasy while your mom is having brain surgery? Bad daughter, bad daughter. And that the fear that paralyzed me was not due to actually not doing my duty, but due to the drama that my brain, my mind was giving me, the story I was telling myself about somehow that I was not right. And in that moment, I was able to exhale and realize, not a bad daughter. Will respond to the moment as and when is required. In the meantime, the moment is joy and ecstasy. And let's dance. And isn't it beautiful? Fast forward 3 years. And as it turned out, Mom was fine. She went through rehab, did a bunch of rehab, and ended up regaining all of her faculties. Fast forward 3 years, March of 2021, she has another cerebral hemorrhage. This time significantly more devastating, in which she lost memory, consciousness. First, my dad and I thought, it's going to be the same as it was before. She'll go through rehab, she'll be fine. We realized really quickly it was not going to be the same. I needed to get on a flight and go back. And I did. And spent 7 months in America. Taking care. It was the call of the moment. So, and of course the final was actually bringing Mom back here. But that's the epilogue. But I share those two pieces with you because they're two different movements in the dance. The first was about the drama in my mind that was not actually a true response to the present moment. I didn't need to be there. She was going to be fine. There was nothing I could do. In the second situation, I absolutely needed to be there. There was a critical role I needed to play. And so you tune in to the dance. Where is it, when is it that my duty is there? And when is it I am just harassing myself, debilitating myself with stories? Bad daughter, bad sister, bad friend, bad this, bad that. Because we're so used to telling ourselves those kinds of stories. And so there's no equation you can pop in that's going to tell you here is how to do it, other than tapping into your own internal knowing. When is it that you and only you need to be there? And then you show up. And when is it that you don't actually need to be there? Even if someone has an agenda that you should be there. I always say, we're not here on earth. Our highest dharma is not to prevent our family members, our friends, our neighbors, our society from having to face their own attachments, expectations, illusions, ignorances, agendas. We're not here to pave the way so that when someone has an expectation, an agenda, an illusion, that our role is just to fulfill it so they never have to work through that. They'll just have to work through it next life. But a lot of times people will try to manipulate you in a way to get you to fulfill their agenda because they don't want to have to look at it. They don't want to have to work through it. But that's not your dharma. Everyone is here to grow and expand, to let go of their stories, of their agendas, of their false identifications. Our role is not to keep people stuck. And, again, there will be times when they absolutely need you to show up, not for their agenda or expectation, but to take care of them. And you'll do it. And you know what? That'll be your spiritual experience. That'll be your yoga. Caring for a parent, a child, a spouse, a friend, when they really need it, physically, medically, emotionally, spiritually, is a great yoga, a great opportunity for us to expand. And so as you allow the music of the universe to flow through you, you'll know how to dance. Beautiful. Yes, yes. Here and then there. Here, sweetie.
Thank you. Oftentimes in life, I've realized is that, I mean, this is for me personally, that, sure, am I audible? Cool. Oftentimes in life, I've realized that there are multiple situations for me where, say, for example, there's a decision to be made, right? Whether you want to do situation A or situation B, and you're confused of what to do. And then there are people from the outside who say that, I think it's better you do A or it's better you do B. In such a case, how do you figure out what is the right thing to do? Like people say that listen to your heart, but I think it is not easy to just listen to your heart. So how do you figure out in such a situation?
Great. Well, first of all, when we're seeking advice from others, which is always a beautiful thing, having guides, mentors, advisors is critical in life, I have found. But you want to be really clear and careful of who they are, so that you know whose advice you're listening to and whose advice you're taking. It's not every random person who wants to tell you how to live your life. Make sure that those you're listening to have something that you want. For example, if you go to a doctor, let's say, you want to get in shape, you want to be healthier, and your doctor is, overweight and sick, and his teeth are falling, or her teeth are falling out, and, that you think, oh God, like, maybe I'm better off with someone else, because clearly, while this person may know the facts, they're not able to live it, which might mean that they're not going to be the best person to guide me. If someone themselves is miserable and angry and addicted and, short-tempered and all of these sorts of things, and you go to them for spiritual guidance, you might not get the most powerful guidance. Choose your advisors, mentors, guides really carefully. Who is somewhere you want to go? They may be 30 steps ahead of you, they may be 3 inches ahead of you. But as long as they are somewhere ahead along the direction you want to go, that's a sign it's a good advisor. If they are not, be really careful about whose advice you take. When you then turn within, the voice that knows, you're right, it is sometimes hard to hear because it's quiet. The voices of fear, the voices of desire, the voices of ego are usually the loudest ones in our head. And this is why meditation is so important, because it actually enables you to hear the quiet voice. The inner voice is not always the loudest. Frequently, it's not the loudest. But you will feel it. You will feel it with a different quality. And a good way, train yourself to listen to it. When you've got decisions that are not necessarily the most major life decisions, practice listening to your intuition. Just go with it. See where it takes you. Learn to trust it. You may be scared to trust it on a major decision because we're so unused to trusting our own selves. So as you get used to trusting it, used to hearing it, start small. Some little decision you've got to make, little choice you have to make. Tune in, give your intuition a voice, and then follow it. And then give it a bigger decision later on, assuming it led you in the right place. and then a bigger decision. And if you find that it's leading you astray, it doesn't mean you've got a faulty intuition. It just means you're not tapping into your real intuition yet. It means you're listening to a voice of ego or fear that's wearing the hat of intuition. And it just means you need to go deeper. Okay? Yeah. Beautiful. Yes.
Thank you. Sadhviji, I have a question from Uddhava Gita, if that's okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey. Now I learned it.
Sure.
As Bhagavan Krishna explains that there are 28 qualities which we have to learn to be perfect, and then there are 4 more super qualities to be better. Out of all those, I'm stuck on one, and that is the karma. The karma is like everything, like whatever we eat, whatever we do, the comforts of life, and all that.
Are you saying calm or karma?
Karma. And and the karma is also your relationship with your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are always trying to please our spouse. Sometimes it takes a lot of time, sometimes it's easier. But in the karma section, Bhagavan Krishna says, do not spend too much time on this. And it's been months I've been stuck on it, because sometimes we have to take our spouse to Italy and we spend like months preparing for it, So it's hard. I have no idea where I'm stuck, but that's the only thing where I'm stuck at.
Beautiful. So the word karma, I won't go into too much of the scriptural and philosophical background here, just to be able to take the last question also and keep it really relevant to people of every religion, of every culture. But the word karma can mean literally our relationships, sexual relationships, physical relationships, sensual pleasures. It can mean our work, the work that we do, from which art, prosperity comes to us. It can mean so much of what we do. A lot of times people think it literally just means sex or sensual pleasures, but it actually doesn't. It's actually much vaster. And he said he's stuck because, on the one hand, Bhagavan Krishna tells us, be sure to please your spouse. But on the other hand, we're told, but don't spend too much time on it. And he says, how do you balance that? There's many different levels of relating to someone, of connecting with someone. Physical level. My physical body connects with your physical body. It may be holding hands. It may be walking down the street together. It may be a hug. It might be engaging in sexual relationships. Whatever it may be, but a physical relationship is one way of interacting. Then you've got a mental way. We have a discussion. My intellectual mind is connecting with your intellectual mind. Maybe we are debating something, maybe we're talking philosophy, maybe we're just having a very interesting intellectual discussion. My emotional heart connects with your emotional heart. You know this when we get into experiences of emotional connection. My soul connects with your soul. When you interact with your spouse and connect with your spouse, it's not only their physical body. It's not only the 3 months you took planning a trip to Italy, which certainly I can understand seems like a lot of time. When he says, be sure to please your spouse, it doesn't just mean in the bedroom, on vacation, with the flowers and the chocolates. I mean, of all the women here, raise your hands if you agree with what I'm about to say, which is that even more important than pleasure or satisfaction in the bedroom or on a holiday or in a nice meal or in chocolate or in flowers or in these external aspects of physical connection. Even more important than that, what you want from your spouse, beloved, is to be seen and known and connected with on a soul-to-soul level. Raise your hand if you agree with that statement. Look around. Turn around, look around. See, look it that way. Keep your hands up. Look everywhere. Okay. So, chances are your wife falls in that same unanimous agreement. The keeping her happy, it doesn't mean that we totally ignore the fact that she has a physical body, the fact that she has an intellectual mind, the fact that she has an emotional heart, and we do things for all of those aspects. But we recognize that the most important way, both on our spiritual journey, because remember that marriage is a dharma, it's a yoga, meaning it is something we walk to get closer to God. It's not just about giving her the trip to Italy that she's wanted. It's, are you getting closer and closer to God together? And so the time that you put in to the physical body, to the intellectual mind, to the emotional heart, should not be too much. Pay attention to it. Don't ignore it. She also has those. Take care of those levels. But the time you put in to connecting with her, knowing her, seeing her, uniting with her on a soul-to-soul level is time that actually counts as sadhana, your sadhana. Meaning, it doesn't get chalked up in the hours you're spent just pleasing your wife. So when you're worried about spending too much time, dedicate more of that time to this to the soul-to-soul level, which A, is going to give her even more happiness than all of these things, but B, counts as your sadhana, because in order to connect with her soul, you have to be anchored in your soul. So that's your meditative practice, your spiritual practice. So it doesn't count as hours that are being not so wisely spent unnecessarily doting on her physical body, intellectual mind, emotional heart. So if you can shift and spend more and more time on a soul-to-soul connection, then you end up attaining that quality of perfection in calm, and you end up attaining perfection in gyan, in anubhav, through your spiritual practice. Okay. Good. Last. Come back. It's okay. Okay. Yeah. We're all one. Yeah. But just need you to speak into the mic.
Okay.
Okay. That's okay. In the meantime, maybe we should go over there. Yeah. And we'll come back.
Namaste, Sadhviji.
Namaste.
So I think I have a chain of questions, but I'll start from the root. So my first question is, why spirituality is not taught in schools? What I feel is, I have been taught, like, like tell about my background, that I've been taught from middle class background, and then we have been told that, study and get good jobs or do business, and then we are been told to chase the materialistic things from the childhood itself. And it took a lot of years for me. In fact, after my mother's demise, actually, uh, I got something like, what is this, like, what we are chasing?
It should be taught in schools.
Yeah. Can I continue my question?
Oh, sure. I didn't.
So,
Sorry.
I'm sorry
Yes,
for that.
No, that's
So-
okay. Of course.
So why, like, it took a lot of years for me, and I was associated with some organizations like Art of Living as well to do yoga, meditation. So I've been doing that from many years, and so one day my mother, she just went away, and at that time I felt like, what exactly is going on in life? What we are doing? We are just chasing materialistic things, and we are just chasing the comforts, and
Yeah.
all of them, like, I thought that everything is going in the opposite direction. So I don't know what is the correct way of living the life. Is it 90% spirituality and 10% of the time we should spend toward comfort? Like, as of now, we are just chasing comforts, and it is just that. And the end goal of comfort is like nowhere.
Beautiful. Yeah. It reminds me of one of my favorite psychological experiments that was done, a study that was done, where they took subjects, and of course, these studies are done in universities and graduate schools, so their subjects are usually university students, graduate students, intelligent people. And they told them, you need to watch this 6-minute video. And the 6-minute video is a basketball game. And there's a red team and there's a white team. And you need to pay attention and count how many baskets the red team makes and how many baskets the white team makes. Okay, easy enough. Students watch the game, count the baskets. At the end, they're given a form, a quiz, that has 3 questions on it. Number 1, how many baskets did the red team make? They all mostly got it right. It's pretty easy to see when someone makes a basket. Number 2, how many baskets did the white team make? And again, they almost all got it right. Third question, did you notice anything else? About 50%, in many cases more than 50%, because they kept replicating this study, they couldn't believe it, of people wrote no. Now, imagine, you're watching a screen, you're a student, you're a graduate student, you're used to paying attention and learning and taking exams and whatnot. You're watching a screen, it's only 6 minutes. It's a basketball game, you're counting baskets. Now, in the middle of that basketball game, it turned out, a huge gorilla came onto the middle of the basketball court and proceeded, and this was actually what the study was about. Nobody cared about a basketball game. The psychological study was on attention. So in the middle of the game, a huge gorilla comes out and proceeds to dance for 30 seconds in the middle of the court and then goes out. 50% of them missed it. Again, more than 50% in many of the replications. Now you think, impossible. You're staring at a screen. How could you miss the dancing gorilla? And the answer is really simple. It's not what they were told to look for. If you tell them in advance, oh, and by the way, don't miss the dancing gorilla, like push a button when it comes out, everyone gets it. Whether they see it or don't see it is determined by one thing and one thing only: what instructions they were given. If they're told to watch for it, or if they're simply told, oh, and by the way, keep your eyes open because something else is going to happen, they catch it. But if they're not, if all they're told is your job is to count baskets, they miss it. And this is what happens in life. This is exactly what you're talking about. We are told your job is pay attention in school, get good grades, get a good education, get a good job, make a lot of money, have a family, build a house, put a white picket fence around it, do this, do that. And we do it. And we do it well. And at some point in our life, tragically for most of us, it's very late in life, we ask ourselves something like, is that all? Did I miss something? Is that really all there was? And so you're asking this question at a young age, which is beautiful. And for me, it's really a matter of spirituality should be 100% of what we do, meaning it doesn't mean we don't have jobs. It doesn't mean we don't go to school and get good grades. It doesn't mean that we don't earn money to put food on the table. It doesn't mean that we don't get married and have families if that's what our dharma is. But it means that we know from the beginning. And by the way, make sure you keep your eyes open, because this isn't actually what it's all about. Do it, but it's not actually what it's all about. So just make sure you don't miss But I'm seeing my job, I'm seeing my family, I'm seeing my house, I'm seeing all of this action in the world, and I am seeing the truth of why I'm here. So it's not 90%, 10%, it's 100%. But it's a deep 100%, a fully present 100%, 100% in which we have the ability to see both all the time, to count baskets and not to miss the gorilla. Beautiful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. A beautiful next 8 days. Again, I hope most of you will be joining us in the International Yoga Festival. But if not, I look forward to seeing you back on the 15th. And so much love to you all.